Hey everybody, let me just flip this camera around so you can at least see my face to start. Oh, hitting it too many times. Come on, technology. All right, hey, I'm Kellen. I'm gonna be doing some kind of basic foragings, mostly around hooks. I love that Lisa was able to give us a shop tour because I really feel that blacksmithing education is incredibly important, and everyone is, it's hard for schools right now with the pandemic. Part of the reason we've been doing these digital demonstrations is to try to fill some of that gap. But schools like Carbondale, who are still able to operate and just do changes with their rules, are, I think, more of an exception than some of the other schools that are around. And I would specifically like to talk about the Cascadia Center for Arts and Crafts coming into this one. They're up on Mount Hood, have thrown Blacksmith Week for over 15 years. It's really been a staple event for so many folks in the Northwest. And like everyone else who's trying to run teaching programs right now, it's really difficult. And so they are unable to really host any of the classes they had planned. Blacksmith Week got canceled. They were never really rolling in the money anyway. So today's demo is going to be, in part, beyond the education. It's a fundraiser for Summit, which is the other thing we call Cascadia Center for Arts and Crafts. So we have got, hopefully, a bunch of members in this crowd who see the value of Summit up there and want to see them survive this year, and we can have a Blacksmith Week next year. Daryl Nelson, who's one of the founding members of NWBA, founded a blacksmithing program up there at Cascadia, at CCAC. And he's really outfitted that shop. It's an amazing facility up in the woods. It's kind of blacksmith camp. Most fun I've ever really had doing any kind of study with friends. So anybody who would like to, and I really encourage all of you to please do so, you can go to cascadiaart.org. That's their website. And there's a donate button. And for anybody who donates $100 or more to their program, we're going to send you 4 hooks made by 4 different people. One will be from me. One's from Joe Elliott, who is a longtime NWBA member, as well as a huge CCAC supporter. Another one from Lisa Geertsen, who we just saw, also a huge CCAC supporter. And finally, from Hunter Dahlberg at Orion Forge. Anybody who donates $100 gets a 4-pack of hooks. It'll all be different from different folks. Some of my favorite spins. All you got to do is, once you have donated, you need to email the NWBA either your PayPal receipt showing that you donated, or take a screenshot of that, something like that. Just give us some proof that you did. And anybody who donates over $50 to $100, we'll send you a hook. I don't know who it's going to come from, but we'll get you a hook. And if you can't make that much, I mean, just, you know, every little bit helps those guys. So please donate. My dog's in the background, drinking from the slack tub. It's his favorite water in the whole world. So let's just get right into this. I'm going to turn my camera around and kind of show some of the elements that we're going to be working on. So some of it's just kind of basic concepts. Things like slitting and then forming to get more volume out of a piece that was small to start with. Round bar hooks that have little doppels for connection. Square hooks with, we'll do a few different ends on things. We'll probably put a twist or two in some things. Flat bar, which is kind of like a fishtail on the one side. This is a neat little element I like at the top here. It's sort of Gary Eagle-esque. He's got a dog head element that he uses the flat bar that I've seen all over the place, and I don't think everybody attributes it to Gary. It's kind of one of my very favorites. But this is kind of a similar take. Then this one's just kind of flattened out, really drawn around. And then I call these the Mark Manley specials. You really like kind of a little bit of a spaghetti, like take round bar and flatten edges out to get more volume with it. As well as this other kind of Mark Manley special, which is a cool little hold the bar back on itself, get some stuff. And then we're going to do one section, which whether it's a hook or just kind of the element of making what appears to be broken. We got any questions or anything so far before I move this camera over and get after it?
Doesn't look like we have any questions from the audience right now. Super excited to see these techniques. This is looking super cool.
Cool. So I rearranged my whole shop so I could hopefully have a camera in one spot. I would take a minute just because I know that I'm not the only one out there who has limited space. Very few things of mine are truly mounted to the ground. My treadle hammer, my power hammer, my shop vise, and then some things are just so heavy that they're hard to move. But for the most part, everything in my shop is either on wheels or draggable. And unfortunately, my anvil is one of those things. I'll lower this down a little bit. My anvil is one of those things. I think I lose some power because it's not really weighted to the ground, but I have to move it all the time. Anytime I have a big project in here, it's in the way. How's that anvil view? Is that going to be okay? Okay, well, I didn't hear anything, so I'm assuming that the anvil.
Yeah, if that's where you're standing, that'll be great.
Yeah, and I'll move it around. We'll be doing a little bit of treadle hammer work. We'll do a little bit of vice work, and I'll just move and get into the spot. So in the concept of basic blacksmithing, we're going to start with the taper. Starting at the end, trying to get that spike on there. I'm hitting it a little bit of an angle, and then I'm also slightly raising the stock up to match that angle. So when I'm doing these hooks, or kind of tapered at the end, I like to run my end taper out almost all the way to the end, and then draw it back. And while I'm rotating, I'm just looking to see that both thicknesses are staying pretty consistent with each other. And I think I'm going to do kind of more than one thing at once, if I can. I'm going to throw a piece of round bar in here too. Both these materials I'm working with today are 3/8, 3/8 square and 3/8 round. I've also got some flat bar I'll be working with that is both 3/16 by 1 and 1/4 by 1. For hooks, kind of 8 inches is sort of a standard that I go with. It all depends on how big of a hook you want. You can do a few different ways. Now I got a little more heat on that. I'm just going to bring that taper up a little farther. And then I'm going to knock the corners down. And I'm kind of starting all the way up in the back. Trying to get that material, the center line, nice and straight. Before I put it in there, because I will forget if I don't, I'm going to grab it from the other side and just knock those corners down, running all the way up. think a lot of people who are new to this, one of the things that's difficult is struggling with tongs and getting a hold of pieces. I use my hammer as like a third hand all the time, where like you can pin it, to move, to grab. Nothing quite like a set of tongs in your hand to make you feel awkward. So for this round bar, at the end of it, what's going to end up being kind of the rat tail, this one we're just going to flatten out. Kind of running that shoulder up a little bit. Octi, is that a good spot to be showing? Is it close enough?
Yeah, that you could get a little closer if you could, but the view is still pretty decent. Yeah, there we go. We can see that nice flare coming off on the end of that. It's starting to upset out the top there.
Okay, so I'm going to put a rat tail on this one. So I'll just go right to the edge of this round over here, and I'm just kind of brushing it over. I'm not really hitting it. I'm not forging, I'm bending. And then once it's up to this part, I'll kind of just bring it back towards myself. For this one, because it was a pretty sharp hook, I want to bring it all the way so that the tip is back in contact with the material. So it's not grabbing a cardigan or poking a hole in your favorite jacket.
Joe Elliott is saying that that's called the slithering blow, according to Al Bart. That's what he used to call it. The slithering blow. One of our former.
I'm going to do that same slithering blow to this round bar.
And on the note of Al Bart, and as long as we're talking about beginner stuff, I want to remind our members that we have a grant in Al's name that you can apply for through the Northwest Blacksmith Association, and the association will sponsor you to go out and take a class and learn a new skill in blacksmithing or discover a new technique for yourself, and then you'll have the opportunity to bring that back to the association and share that with everybody else. So something to look into on the website. Back to you, Kellen.
Perfect. No, thank you for plugging Al. That's great. This one I'm not going to bring all the way around because it's not very sharp, and so I'm less worried that it's going to poke a hole in somebody's stuff. So we're going to start rolling this hook, but we need to protect what we just did. If I start hitting that, it's going to deform. So I'm just going to come over to my slack tub here, slightly off screen. I just quenched the tip off. So I had too much heat up here, the whole bar turned. So to correct that, I can hook the anvil here and put in some backside blows to straighten that back out. And I'm not going to promise that any of these hooks are going to be incredibly beautiful. A lot of it's more a little kind of function over form for me. But now we've got a hook. But for this one in particular, it's pretty boring going through here. We still need a way to mount it. And so we're going to put a twist in it, but I'm going to set this one aside for a minute because I do have to move the camera to show the twist.
Lisa's in the chat plugging the Al Bart as well. She's saying it's really underutilized. You feel free to turn your mic on anytime you want, Lisa. And say it, but I'm just going to agree. I think, a lot of our members don't really realize it's there and that they can use it. Here's Kellen doing that back bend on this other piece here. With that tip just quenched off there. Kellen, Lisa's asking about jigs.
Yeah, I would use jigs. I would say if I have more than one hook to make for anything, jigs are the way to go. I was trying to make this demo be a little more for folks who might not have a welder, who might not have access to making jigs. And so these are all just going to be handmade, but typically, yes, I would be using some kind of a jig or a bending fork. So there are a few tools we're going to use today besides hammer, anvil, tong, one of which is a bob punch. This is, I believe this is a piece of 1045 that has been forged down into a round, and then the tip of it has been dressed into a ball. We're going to use this to set where any fasteners that hold this hook in place are going to go. And so one of the things that I think is challenging for somebody who's working by themselves is holding a tool in one hand, holding a hammer in the other hand, and then holding a piece of stock in your third. We don't have freehand. And so one of the tricks, I don't know if you can see this, is kind of the between the leg tong hold. Doesn't always work as well as you would hope.
That's the thigh master technique.
The thigh master technique is not always as efficient as you would. I've found a couple of ways you can kind of cheat with using hardy tools. This is something I would not really recommend using this sort of a tool because it does have a bladed edge. But if you're doing something like a hook where it needs to rest, you just grab this other one. Like if I was going to put a bob punch in this hook, and I needed to get to this front side, I could set it here and then set the bob. And this is going to at least add some support. This being a cutoff tool, there's a little bit of like a danger in here that if I totally miss, I could cut my finger off if I'm swinging that hammer hard enough, or at least draw some blood. So this is probably not the ideal tool for this.
I would like to remind our younger and beginning members to never swing a hammer at a cutoff tool. But Kellen can because he knows what he's doing.
You can swing a hammer and a cutoff tool if you're trying to cut something off, but this tool should not be left in the hardy if you're not actively using it, because it doesn't take much to really hurt yourself. While we're just on this kind of hardy thing, this is a little, just a piece of flat bar that I have bent around that can drop in here. And with the right size metal, which it holds 3/8 round pretty well, but I could drop it in there, especially if it's flat, and it's at least going to act as a little bit of a backer, so it's not going to jump around quite so much.
That is a great, quick and easy little tool trick right there. I like that a lot.
Yeah, you know, I don't really use a hold down. Like, I don't use this very often. I feel that it's always not worth the time it takes. It doesn't always hold as well as I'd like. So I do a lot of just throwing bars down and using gravity and hopefully straight blows to keep them where they need to be. But I do have this hook in there now that wouldn't really match those. Well, actually, I'm going to use this tool as kind of a backer. I'm going to come kind of center bar just above. I'm doing some really light blows to start, make sure that I'm in the center. I hope you can see how helpful it is to have something flat here that I'm able to like back that with. Keeps the hook from at least wanting to roll the one direction. I'm going to flatten that out. Did bow it up quite a bit. So that's kind of the first little bob hole in there. And I would drill that out. I don't think that I would try to punch that. Punching it when you've already put a bob in there is doable, but it's really easy to mar things up.
And how thin are you going on that bob before you're stopping? I mean, are you going like about an 1/8 of an inch?
This one's maybe about half material. You could take it pretty much all the way down so that the bob is almost in contact with the face of the anvil. It just depends on the size of the bob. The size of the bob is how much swell you'll get, and that's what I'm looking for is swell. If you don't have one of these tools, another thing that can work is a ball peen hammer, a small ball peen that has a rounded end. This might be too large for such a small bar, but a larger bar, this is doable. The thing to keep an eye on, though, is this is a hard hammer face, and I wouldn't want to use a hard hammer to hit the small peen. I would want to have a softer hammer. So I have a hammer in the shop that does have a softer face. It's another ball peen that's kind of heavier weighted. That once upon a time I pulled the handle off and I heated up just that one end, but it's cool. So it's slightly annealed. So the second one, I'm going to come in about the thickness of the metal from the end. That side. Oh.
Yeah, there's some debate in the chat as to if it's a ball or a round end or a bob. I've definitely heard all three of them. I think it's definitely one of those ones that has a few.
I bet you all.
Or doppel. Yeah, Joe's heard doppel as well. I haven't heard doppel, but doppel's that's the first time I've heard that one.
Yeah, I've heard Joe refer to it as the doppel. I mean, I've heard all the names. I think that there are names, multiple names for multiple things that we use. And having kind of been running around with a few farriers in the recent past, having Riley Kirkpatrick here, and I went and had beers with those guys, they call everything a pritchel. And so, I mean, there's like many names for all the things, but they use the word pritchel for so many stuff, so many different tools that I was finding it really confusing. So just straightening that back out. So that's like not unattractive hook that could, go in a series, mount them on a piece of wood. Barnwood looks really nice. A nice piece of steel where then these are riveted into place. The backing plate is what has the actual connections to the wall. Okay. We are going to make it another bar in here. I'm going to throw this first one back in to get some heat. We are going to throw a twist in it. And we're going to do another one, which is going to have a little upset. We're going to do both those in the vise. So I'm going to move the camera over. I usually have this door wide open.
Yeah.
But for a demo, it would just be a giant glow halo spot, and it would be really hard to see.
Oh, interesting note from Jim Carley. He has heard that the chamfered hole that you put a screw head into was called a DAP. And so people would use the center punch to make it. And so that's maybe where DAP punch has come from. I hadn't heard that one either. All kinds of little words for this one.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to upset the end of a new bar. So I'm going to grab it by the tip. I'm going to try to get just some of that heat out of there. For the sake of the demonstration, this is how I'm going to do it. In my day-to-day operations, I'd use an induction forge. So I'm going to upset the end. I'm kind of looking for a four-sided chamfer, so I'm pasting it around. I'm using a really small hammer. A big hammer is going to throw, the mass is going to want to push deeper down. So if you're trying to upset the end to get really big, maybe a bigger hammer is the way to go, but a small hammer is just kind of pushing that surface steel. And so it's really going to just work that surface. It's nice for like a decorative upset where I'm not actually trying to get the material that's below it, just the tip. One thing to always be aware of is, heat runs fast, so it's nice to have your tools set up before you bring things over. I've got an old style parallel jaw wrench here that I've just welded a piece of tubing on. These work well. You can use a crescent wrench. You can have dedicated kind of fork twists for different stock sizes, but I like the adjustable one. Okay, I'll pull this hook out. The vise is going to dictate where the bottom of the twist starts. So I'm going to go just below where the top of the hook is. Make sure that I'm straight. And then this is going to dictate where the top of the twist is. And so I'm going to come down, what's that, 3/4 of an inch or something. And you can put as many or as few in there as you want. Everyone has a different opinion on how many twists things should get. While it's in the vise, I'm going to do a little bit of straightening. The important part is that the square stock stays in line with the hook. So you can stop it at any increment that still kind of keeps that. Now that I got this twist in there, I don't really want to hit the twist because it'll start flattening those ridges out, which can be an attractive look if you are trying to do one of the many various different twists that are out there. That good enough shot? Throw it back in.
That's really nice. Do you have a preference twisting off the top or the side of your vise? Does it make a difference, or does it just depend on the piece you're twisting?
I like to come out of the top because I think it's a lot easier to keep it straight. But in all honesty, I don't do a lot of twists. I don't really care for them as an aesthetic choice very often.
There he goes with those light tapping blows again.
Yeah, and they're kind of like glancing blows. And so as you're going around, you can kind of see the facets. You might not be able to see it so well from where you're at.
Not super well.
They all come to a point at the tip. So it's like a pyramid. And you can actually set the top one down. Just kind of pull it over on me a little bit. I'm not too concerned. Let's see if maybe with a closer camera. No, that's not like so beautiful if I even want to show it off. So this side, it's like all of them come to a point, and then this side, I brought them all to a point, and then I hit it flat. It's just different upset styles.
Can we get a look at that rawhide mallet too? We had some questions about that.
Sure. I picked this up at an estate sale at some point. It's a Garland. This brand is still in existence. You can still buy these inserts. It's pretty sweet. It's got like a threaded sleeve here. So you can back these out and actually replace your mouse with that belt. Or grab it. Right, so as this wears out, you can buy a new one and just insert it in there, and then there goes the rubber one. But I don't know how often they need to be replaced. I don't use this a ton, so I think I'm still running on the original ones that came with it. But I did look them up at one point and saw that you could replace them, and they weren't that expensive.
Lisa is mentioning that is the canine smith's favorite type of hammer.
Canine.
She's saying you got to keep it away from the doggies.
Yeah, my dog discovered it one day, and I had to put a quick stop to it. Okay, I think we're done in the vise for a few, so I'm going to bring the camera back over here.
That's pretty cool that company still makes those inserts. And you know, there's a few different manufacturers of those hammers that you can still find around, like in the used, like at the state sales and at Swaptoberfest and stuff like that. But I had no idea that any of them still actually manufactured the inserts for them. I kind of want to track those ones down and see if they'll fit mine.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that company itself is still around, but I do know you can still get inserts. I did find them.
Oh, there we go. Kenny's got the link in the chat.
We're going to set this down with a half-face blow. So I've come to the edge. I've picked a more rounded spot here. It's called a half-face blow because my hammer is half on, half off the anvil. Stuff that's off is going to get shoved down the side, and stuff that's on top is going to get forged down. So I like to set it at a little bit of an angle to start, right? So you can see it's kind of chamfered in there. And then once it's set to that depth, I'll roll it up so that the whole thing gets to be flat.
And do you have a spot on the anvil that you prefer to do stuff like that in? Those half-face steps?
Well, from about here up, I've got, it's probably like a 5/16 round over or something. And then I've got like an 1/8" round over here. I've left some kind of sharper spots. I've found that every now and then I need them. I've really been debating increasing the radius on at least one side up to like maybe 1/2 inch. But haven't pulled the trigger on it because something about grinding on my anvil maybe.
It's a lot harder to put it back.
It sure is. Okay, so we have got the end of this flattened out. I would probably just drill a hole, but we're going to punch this hole instead for the sake of things. I've got a punch here. This piece is S2, which is a shock-resistant steel. The S-series steels are pretty good. I think only S7 is really all you can get. Probably somebody correct me if I'm wrong. S2, they don't make anymore. You can find it at swap meets sometime, tailgating type situations. And if you do, buy it. It's like the holy grail of the tool field. So to punch this hole, I'm going to have to come out from both sides, and I will come from the back side first. So here's where, if I wasn't showing how everybody just how you can do it on an anvil without tools, I would be on my phone. We will move over there eventually for other things. As you can tell, it's a little awkward. And I'm not very good at doing the Tom tuck. Every time I try, it seems like I hurt myself.
You better go watch some Jane Fonda videos. That was her with the Thigh Master, right? I can't remember.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've come most of the way. You can flip it over. You can see this kind of like a halo of right where it was. I'm just going to tap that down. Line this back up right. This Thigh Master.
Oh, it was Suzanne Summers. Kenny, thank you.
Suzanne Summers. Kenny would know. So now that I'm punching this, I don't want it crazy hot. So I just got it to kind of like a dull red. Because if it's too hot, it doesn't shear, it drags. So I've set that down. I can feel that that like punch is right at the end there. I'm going to come over here to a hole. Just give it that last tap. See if I cleared the plug. Hadn't. Oh, there the plug went.
That's definitely a closed-toed shoot operation right there, huh?
I think pretty much everything in here is. So now we got a hole. So this hook's like ready to go. Could get stuck on the hole, in onto the wall with a nail or with a screw.
All right, so you heard the man. Get on that CCAC website, cascadiaarts.org, and make your donation. And that beautiful coat hook right there could be yours, I believe is the deal.
Oh, yeah, and I don't know if it'll be this one in particular. Anybody who makes those donations gets, you know, if it's $100, you get 4 hooks. I mean, it's a pretty good deal for 4 different Smiths.
From 4 different Smiths. That's, I mean, that is a cool, it's like a little box set right there.
Yeah.
And Cascadia Arts is a great cause. It's, you know, I was saying about the Albart grant earlier, I utilized it myself when I was newer to the NWBA, and I used it to take a class with Daryl Nelson at Cascadia Arts. And it's, you know, one of the best classes I've ever taken for many reasons, but one of them because of the location. They got a beautiful spot out there. So check out the website, folks.
We're going to move on to flat bar. I would, to anybody who's kind of newer at this, I would preach the usefulness of a rake. This tip is got kind of a double curve in it, kind of like a stake turner. And so for getting into the forge and fishing things out, it might be a little hard to grab, especially if you have short tongs. This is a super useful tool. And this is just a piece of 3/8 round that has a little bit of a draw on one side, a little bit of draw on the other, put into a hook and a turner. So I've got a piece of 3/16 by 1 and a piece of 1/4 by 1 in here. And we are going to do the same thing to ball on the one end, kind of see what it looks like. Different thicknesses. So I'm coming on the corner of this anvil at a 45-degree angle. That center line is kind of right at the center of the material. I'm going to use the rounding side of this hammer, kind of doing these half-face blows. I'm going to set the one. I'm going to come to the other corner. So it's a little tricky because you're working blind. You can't really see what you're doing. All you can see is the backside. So you have to watch the pooch. Then if you flip it over, you can see like, oh, I wasn't perfect, but it's pretty close to the end.
Oh, we are experiencing some technical difficulties, Claire is saying, with the website right now. So at the moment, Albart Grant is not quite accessible. I'm sorry, Claire. I was I was speaking a little too quickly about it there. So, you know, it's gonna be there, I guess is what I'll say. It's just bear with us. Thank you, Claire. She's working really hard on fixing some back end stuff that's going on with the website right now and making it more efficient for all of our members and everything. So that is,
Yeah, who knew a website had a shelf date? Our website's relatively old, so we're definitely experiencing some technical difficulties with that. So I've done that same thing again, and I should have done this with the other one before I threw it in there. But we're going to use one of the other tools that I think is really nice to have. We're going to start by, I'm going to measure in 1 inch, because that is the thickness of the cross section there, 1 inch. We'll start by just marking this off with a chisel. This is on the back side. And I'm pretty much just giving myself a really small line that I can find and index once I have some heat on it.
So this is you now working on the dog head, the Gary Eagle dog head?
Yeah, here, let me get this one marked out. This one is hot. I'm just going to eyeball it. So I would put a chisel mark in there while it's cold, and you can actually get it marked out, right? It's just like a witness mark. And I'm going to come back at it with a butcher. Grab. This is the element we're working on right now. So I'm going to use this butcher, which is got one flat bladed side and then it ramps out. It's nice to have these at different widths, at different slopes. It's really one of my favorite hand tools. This could be a actual hand tool that's more like a chisel. I've got a few of these smaller handled ones, which are 1045 and super clinch. Joe Elliott actually makes these, and I sure do love my set that I bought from him, or I guess traded to him.
If you're looking to pick some up, I believe Joe is in attendance.
Joe's in attendance. I don't think he's looking to work though.
Not.
So I'm going to index this so that the ramp is going away from the element. And this is going to let it, so when I put the fold in there, it's really nice and controlled. The bend is going to happen on the side that is thinner. Okay, so I'm just going to do this other one because it's hot. The material heats up really quick, and then I want to actually show you guys about it. Okay, so let's look in here. Is this a pretty good close view?
Yeah, that's look at you. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, see if you turn the light there, you can see the contour a little bit.
So, you know, it's got the one flat side here and it ramps on the other side. And so you can see how far down your material you're going. It looks like this is the 1/4 inch piece. I've gone down at least an eighth strong. But an important part is that I don't come off the edges. I've left it full material on both ends. So that's going to make it so when it folds, there's some backing there, so it's less likely to tear, as well as be more attractive. It's not, you're not going to see that extra pooch. So we're going to do 2 different things here. On one of them, we're going to punch the hole. On the other one, I'm not going to punch the hole. I'm going to leave that one to be drilled. I was playing with this earlier, and it was kind of fun to punch the hole and then fold it, and then have to punch the hole through the second bar that it's folded onto. There.
There it goes.
Everything down. All right, so we got a hole on the one side. The other one we're not. I'm just going to drill that one eventually. But we are going to hold it and maybe even pull those ears off all in one heat. So I'm putting that butcher line that I made on the backside just off the edge of the anvil. It's a really easy, tight fold. Bringing it back onto itself. I'm going to set it. It's created these little pooches there. I'm just going to make those go away. And then we're going to do the same thing that we did on the other side. And since you're working blind, it can be a little tough to make that be perfect. I mean, we're close, but it's not dead on. But I think it's an attractive little end piece to a hook. Really gives it kind of a handmade look.
That is super cool. Lisa just posted a recap in the chat, everyone, about the exact details of this hook, the hook promotion for Cascadia Center for Arts and Crafts. So check out in the chat there. It's got all the details there. Lisa, are you saying that just do a raised hand to indicate that you'd like to be involved in that? And then are you going to take down, are we taking down all the names? How are we going to do that part?
I'll take down the names for sure. And I think the easiest way is that people speak up in the chat would be great.
Okay. So go ahead and let us know in the chat.
It'd be great if we knew that people were doing it. If you could please just email the NWBA a copy of your receipt or a screenshot would be awesome.
I'm going to start it off by putting my $100 out there for the CCAC.
Ooh, Lisa, you know what? You're going to get a Lisa hook.
Anthony is asking about maker stamps on those. I believe they most likely would be, correct?
I don't know about Lisa and Hunter. Actually, I don't know about Lisa, but I don't really sign maker mark anything of mine. I know Joe doesn't do his either. And I picked one up recently.
So yeah, it looks like
no.
yeah, that looks like a no, Anthony. It's going to be one of those if you know kind of things.
Yeah, and they're just hooks. I mean, even if all of us are world famous at some point, I don't really think we're going to have that. So this is the center one. I'm going to flatten this end out. I'm going to use the rounding side of my hammer because I want it to go out, starting in the middle and then working towards the outside. And then I'm flipping it over to the flat. So it's really just, I've gone pretty thin on the end here. And I'm going to roll this one up fairly tight.
We got Jim went over and got his set of hooks. So there's one going right now. He's emailed the webmaster. That is the important step, folks. Email the webmaster that receipt. So that is the way that all this is gonna be tracked.
Yeah, and it would be really helpful, anybody include in that email, whatever, make sure we have your name, a shipping address. Those are all really helpful things for us to have.
Name and shipping address. Otherwise, we got to track you down. And Joe signs his with every hammer blow. So if you just look real close at every single hammer blow on there, it should say Joe Elliott. I think he must just put it on like the face of his hammer or something, would be my assumption.
Yeah, we can always tell. They're the cleanest ones there ever were.
Yeah. Rochelle has seen it. She says it's a special texturing hammer that he made.
The Joe Elliott special. Okay,
yeah.
So he just poked a hole through both sides. Now I'm going to flip it around, get the other side in there. Okay, so we're back to this first one. This is the piece of 3/16 that we really thinned out at the tip there. We're going to use some of these slithering blows.
Slithering blows, the Albart term.
So again, right to the edge on that radius, just these like real soft. I'm pushing, I'm not forging. Trying to get it to at least to that 90-degree spot. And then I'm just trying to bring that edge over because I want this to be pretty tight. And I'm also not trying to hit the same spot. I mean, I'm sort of slithering blows back towards myself. I'm going to do one more of those, but you can see, I mean, it's kind of rolling over there. Nice. Okay, the other one we're going to do a fishtail with. And so if you have the tools, I recommend using the tools. I am going to be using a larger fuller. It's not that large, maybe 3/8 of a round over. If you don't have one of these, you can work blind if you have a nice radius corner on your nipple. But I'm going to use this. We can see what's happening.
I'm having a great time today too, Lisa. I'm glad we were able to have you as co-host today. It was a super nice, super great treat.
So I'm going to start in the center. And just want to make sure I'm all the way centered before I'm really committing. Kind of hitting it at an angle. And then I'm going to go to one side of it and split the difference. And then go to the other side and split the difference. We're going to do this in more than one heat. So you guys can see. So when you do the center one and then you do the two outside ones, again, you don't want to come to that edge. When you're spreading metal like this, you want to work from the center out. Because if we were just going to not have these lines, we just wanted this to really flare, we would still be going from the center out and leaving mass on the ends until the very end, because it wants to spread that way. If you thin the edges out, then they kind of back that work. So then when you're trying to spread the middle, it's harder to get the outside because it's already thin to move efficiently. Okay, slithering blows.
And it looks like that backhand's doing a lot of work with those slithering blows too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just backing it. It's nice to have a good set of tongs that can really hold it well when you're doing any kind of hitting towards yourself. Especially if it's square bar, if the tongs don't have a flat back from where the jaw hits the boss. It wants to force the tongs open all the time. We're going to call that pretty close. I mean, it is a demonstration, so it's not maybe going to be as perfect if I was sitting here trying to really make it.
Yeah, Lisa's adding that when you're doing those slithering blows, having that hand sucked into your hip and anchored right there with your tong hand is another great way to give yourself that support from keeping it all sliding back on you while you're hammering. A little easier on your elbow too.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times it's really good to have your tool hands tucked into your elbows. I can't say that I'm good at doing that, but kind of getting it up against your body can help hold things straight. Okay, so I've chased those back in there, and now we're going to roll them out. So something that I guess should have been noted for this one is that, this is the front of the hook. We've got our element up here, so you want to make that face the same side, but then it's going to roll away, and then the hook will come back. So same thing with the one we did the slithering blows on, is that those blows went away from the face, and I'm going to quench that tip off. And I like to start hooks right kind of as close to the tip of the anvil as I can. So it kind of helps give that a initial curve. You don't get a flat spot in there. I almost caught myself there. I was trying to flatten this out a little bit, and this is no longer the same thickness as parent material here. Doing this on the anvil is just going to put a big weird kink in it. So you got to keep that tip off if you're trying to do those side hits.
Can you use your hardy hole at all for that kind of thing, or do you like to hang it off the side?
This one, yeah, I mean, you could. My edges are pretty well dressed. My hardy's like dressed, but not perfect. I like to hang it off the side if I can. And if I need to hang off two sides, I'll usually use kind of front corner, maybe the back corner.
And that's mostly because
What's that?
Oh, I was just saying, and that's because you like to have those rounded edges that won't mar your work as much.
Yeah. Anytime that there's like work that I'm trying to protect and keep from being marred, I really try to be mindful of things hanging off the edge or over the horn so that it's staying off. But well, short of me from working blind here and not really getting to see the front of this. This one's done. I'll just drill a hole in the middle of that at some point.
You cut out there for a minute, Kellen. We lost everything after drill a hole in the middle of that.
You could get the exact same kind of end finial. Right, this same finial, you could do those same lines with a butcher or a fuller and a set hammer, where you can see what's happening and not working blind. Okay, I'm gonna grab my rawhide mallet because we've got this nice kind of fishtail going on here, and I don't want to push the ridges up with the hammer. So, kind of rawhide mallet slithering blow. You gotta do a little more with the mallet. And actually, I don't even know if I need to do that. So I think this one we can just jump right into the mold. Yeah, I probably should have taken a second.
Well, your feed's pretty choppy anyway. You want to take a quick heat real quick just to give the feed a little time to buffer, maybe?
Sure. Well, that one was about. You can do
Was it done? Okay.
Yeah, I was going to take one more heat. Clean it up.
Okay.
I was about to move the camera because I'm going to make a piece of rope. You guys can see.
Okay.
Right?
Should be good. Yeah.
About to have too many irons in the fire if I'm not careful.
And so you're using the rawhide mallet for this hook here to protect which part of this right now?
Yeah, so these ridges that are between these fish scales. I mean, I could use a regular hammer, but it would give those a little bit of facets. And I just think it's more attractive if they kind of all stay put. So yeah, there's another hook, and this one's already got a hole in it, so it's pretty much ready to go. So this time I am actually going to set it on here because it's got a little bit of a twist going, using that to fix it. Okay, I'm going to move this camera slightly. We're going to do a little treadle hammer work.
And I can't recall, Kellen, did you build this treadle hammer or did you?
Yeah. This is a Mark Manley special.
That's right.
There are only 4 of them, all in Central Oregon. Nicest treadle hammers on the planet. He's working on his new shop. Maybe someday some folks can convince him to build a new one. That might be hard.
And I believe he still is he still doing his hardy tools as well? I know for a while, coming through, like at the Swaptoberfest and stuff, you'd see him and he'd have these really nice kind of hardy anvils and hardy tools that he was making.
I missed a step here. Mark is building a house in Coos Bay right now. His entire shop has been shut down for 8+ years, I think. Once his house is done, he will be back in the hardy business, I think. That might take a little bit of time. So for doing this rope, there's kind of a couple ways you can do it. I think you get a real similar end product. We're going to use square. This is 1/2-inch square. I'm knocking down the corners. Not huge facets, but you know, they're 1/8 of an inch, 3/16 across. I'm not too concerned about making them beautiful and having like no hammer marks on them, because I think that those kind of hammer blows add to the rope look. The other way you can do this is to use round bar, and you flatten it out so it's somewhat square, and then the round ends up being those corners.
Which would then just be pre-chamfered basically already.
Yeah, I think the round makes it look a little more smooth, because it's those corners are what you kind of see in the twist. Here, let me grab a piece. I can show you the difference. This might be hard to see on the feed, so I'm going to get behind the camera. So this one here.
Oh yeah, that's a great.
Really see. Yeah. So these are. This is a piece of square that's had the corners chamfered down, and then this is a piece of round. Camera focus. This is a piece of round that has had the flats done. It wants to focus and then come out of focus. So they're very similar, but I think round maybe looks a little better. But it's also harder to cut these lines than round. Okay, so we are going to eyeball center.
Oh, that is a nice treadle.
I'm going to go all the way over, so I'm working opposite sides. Is that a pretty good view? Can you see the cut happen?
It's great. Yeah, the view is great. That Manly special is barely moving at all. That thing looks beautiful.
So if you've got a good top tool, you can kind of do this whole thing. You don't need a lot of heat to do this. If this was smaller bar and I wasn't trying to get a very deep cut, you could do this whole thing cold before it really had any heat on it.
Anthony is definitely hoping to get a look at the rest of that treadle hammer again later once you're done with this shot and these heats and everything.
Cool.
I don't want to make you move the camera now that you got it right where you want it.
No, I mean, I was gonna take this rope all the way to finish, so when it's getting its next heat, we'll do a little metal hammer look. So on the one side, I'm gonna pull it up, but leave it about 5/8 of an inch or something from the end. At least for this one, because we are gonna turn this into a hook. So I wanna have a mounting spot. If I remember correctly, I think I first saw this technique, this was a number of years ago, up on Mount Hood at CCAC, and I believe it was Daryl Nelson who showed us how to do this.
Joe's saying you used a DCF Butcher Fuller hot cut. Makes him feel good. Maybe that's in reference to that. I don't know. I don't know what DCF is.
That's Dry Canyon Forge. That's Joe. Yeah, I've been using a bunch of Joe's tools that I got off of him. Here, while this heats up, we'll do two things. Let me grab, I think this is the set of 4 that I got from Joe. Oh, no, one of these is one I made because I remodified one of his. But these tools right here, they're short little handles, they're short top tools, they get in there really well. The Butcher, this set is super useful, like a round punch. This is like a medium fuller. Since then, I think I've made like a large fuller and a really tight fuller. And this is a hot cut that I made, but same material, very similar process. And we will be going over the vise. So before we do that, we'll give Anthony the treadle hammer.
And
I'm going to close this door real quick just to.
Oh, perfect.
So to start with, made in the USA, Mark Manley's shop. This thing, very well weighted. I think the top ram is 70 pounds. The bottom one is all solid. It's a solid piece, sleeved into tubing, 140 pounds, just the anvil. We've got an adjustable turnbuckle in the back for the stroke height. There's Zerk fittings on everything that needs it. These nice roller bearings, they're all adjustable, so you can really get this whole ram to stay nice and tight. And then it's got a 1-inch Hardy top and bottom that he's broached to plug into. And so in theory, if these are dialed up, you know, top and bottom, true, you could put like a fuller and a fuller and use it as a guillotine. I've yet to do, but yeah, it's a really, really nice hammer. And I made a set of dies for it that it has a rounded top and a corresponding cupped bottom. And with that, here, I'll let you grab it. It makes making curved pieces super easy. And you can like make a steel ball. Made a few different balls, varying sizes that came from those dies.
Oh, those are cool. You made those just with the dies on your treadle. That's crazy cool. That was real fast. Can we see that again?
Sure. Here, let me step back so I can. This is 8th-inch plate. I think it's 12 gauge. It was
Wow.
just kind of a bunch of scrap and fall off pieces that then I dressed out and just random sizes, all tack welded together on the inside. Right, get in there. It's kind of fun.
And we had another question, I believe it was from, that was from Charlie about techniques for making, if that's something you can make, those top tools.
Oh, the top tool?
Yeah.
Where, are you talking the dry canyon top
Just
tool?
in, no, yeah, just in general. Yeah, he was asking about if that's something that smiths can make for themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Joe, am I about to give away all your secrets? Or are you going to get upset if I start talking about this? Am I going to hear about it later? I got to wait for Joe to give me
He's good. He said you're fine.
Okay. Well, I'm going to just kind of take a minute what I'm doing here. See if I can grab a couple of pieces to show how. It is nice to have a hammer because these material sizes are not necessarily available to buy pre-made. I think that I started with a piece of 1-inch square or 1-inch round, might have been 1.5 inches. And I broke it down so that my cross section on these is like 3/4 by 5/8, somewhere in there, or 3/4 by 7/8. So it's slightly rectangular. And then drifted a hole, punched and drifted a hole through it, so you end up with this shape. And this is all 1045, but you could use other materials. 1045 is really nice because it takes a heat treat really well. So then once this is done, then you can draw out the one side into the business end, and then the other side square it off for the working end that you're going to be hitting. And it's good to source your handles first if you're not going to make them yourself, and then make your drift for this hole to match the handles. The heat treat on this is what I've been doing is kind of thermocycling them a couple of times, get it so everything's balanced in there. And then I have been using my induction forge to just heat the end that is going to be like the business end of things, up to just past non-magnetic. And then I've been using super quench. You can use super quench on any carbon steel that has lower than 50 points of carbon. It works really well for mild steel. That's how Mark Manley is making his party blocks. All mild steel with super quench. They hold up great. With this 1045 and the super quench, it's a super easy and fast heat treat. And I'm only heating the one side, so this side ends up being softer, which is what you want. And then if you start to lose your temper or any of that goes away, at least with an induction forge, I'll just take the heat on the end and just try not to have a straight hard line, and then just re-super quench them. They seem to hold up pretty well.
So do you find that you have to take them off of the head even with the induction forge, or can you do that with the induction? Wow.
Yeah, I leave the handle on.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah, and I think you can do the same thing with a torch.
Oh, okay. If you're just real controlled with your torch head and your heat.
I think that you'd be more likely to start burning it with the torch than you would with the induction torch, because that induction heat is just so magical.
Yeah, every time I hear about one of those, it's just another selling point.
Yeah, Bhakti, I think you need one.
Man, put it on the long list.
You should move it up the list.
Yeah, maybe. I'm thinking about it.
Okay, so I'm trying to grab just a little tiny bit. Is that view okay? Can you see the whole thing?
We can, not the whole thing. We can't see the top. We can see more of your post vise than we really need to. There we go.
Yeah, you definitely want that on your short list, Bhakti.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know it. There's been a couple of times when I've been like, ooh, I'm wishing right now that I had one of those.
So I'm just barely trying to grab any of it. And this is where I can tell already it's getting pretty tight on the top. Twist is getting tighter on the top than on the bottom. And so this is where I would want to hit it with a torch, but I'm going to stop right now and throw it in the forge with the side that's not twisting as much. Let's get a little more there. If you've got a torch in hand, you can really see where it's twisting tighter and where it's twisting looser, and direct the heat to where it's looser. And if you've got that focused heat, you can really make it a very even twist.
Or if you got that induction forge.
Yeah, if you got that induction. The induction forge, you can make a wand for it, and I'm actually, John Paul bought one, had a wand, and I borrowed it from him to try to deconstruct the wand and figure out like how to make a better one, because the wand kept getting hot, and I haven't quite made it there yet. You can get a wand, has fairly limited range.
Yeah, I didn't know that about those. That's pretty cool that you could have something where you can get it a little kind of away from the machine. All right, here we go with the twist.
Yeah, you can't get very far away from the machine is the thing. I think you have to be like within 20 something inches. Okay, there we go. Now it's a little more even. And this twist got all kind of wonky on me. It's not very straight. That's okay, because it's rope.
This looks more like a rope now. And looks like Charlie, one of our attendees in the chat, did some research on induction forges. So if people are looking for more information on them, there's one resource there. And then I believe we have a few members here as well who've kind of done some research and know a bunch about those.
Yeah, there's so Grant Sarver, who was long time NWBA member, he I think is sort of responsible for bringing the induction forge to the Smith. He was importing them. They kind of designed these smaller units because the induction technology has been around for a really long time. I think pre-50s maybe, or close to the 50s, where they would be the size of a house, and they would melt these giant vats of steel and other metals in kind of foundry work. And so when he brought them in as a smaller induction style, they were pretty expensive. Then when he died, the business changed hands a couple of times. There's a guy, Gene Olson, he's in Minnesota, somewhere near there, who's running that company. But there's a few knockoffs. I bought a knockoff, a company called US Solid, seems to work really well. It's a magic technology. I can't quite say I understand how it works or why it works, but it does. And actually, if somebody thinks they know how to run one, we got an NWBA member right now who just bought a new one because he has an older style. All the parts are there. Everything seemed to work. There seems to be a water restriction, and I bet you he would let that thing go for real cheap. Somebody who thinks they know how to figure it out.
That would be pretty sweet. I just want to repeat what Lee was saying in the chat about Grant Sarver being one of the first 10 Northwest Blacksmith Association members. You know, a lot of smiths in this area knew him well and had a lot of respect for him. He's a really important part of the getting the blacksmithing community here going. And we named our library after him, the Northwest Blacksmith Association Grant Sarver Library. You know, so he's we like to remember him very well.
Okay, I'm gonna move this camera so you guys can see this tool that I've got going on here. So I took 2 pieces of 3/4 inch round, clamped them together, and then drilled. Actually, I don't even think I clamped them together. I put a spacer in there, and then I drilled this is a 5/8 hole, and I think a 3/8 hole on the other side. And then when they came apart, I just kind of dressed it out. And this will grab round material really well without really marring it. Let me make sure I got all my tools that I need. I am just going to be dressing out the top side of this rope, but I am going to just try to straighten it very slightly. And since we had put hammer blows on all those facets, I'm a little less concerned about messing this one up. So you'll be able to see once I get this thing clamped in there. Oh, the camera, sorry.
We're still good. View's still good. Okay.
The tip of it, the twist doesn't run all the way through. And so I would, whoa, like a little sloppy in there. Maybe I used bigger material last time. This isn't really holding, see? We'll drop it in on the other side and hope that it's not too undersized. I would have cut the top of this down a little bit to get that twist to have really appear to have come all the way through. Well, it sounds like a few folks probably went over to CCAC. I mean, I just want to remind everybody that they should probably still think about doing that if they haven't already. This kind of donation to them hook honoring system will run through this whole week. So as long as you're donating to them today or tomorrow, you will still honor it.
And that's a really cool promotion. That's four different smiths making 4 different hooks, all of them really special to blacksmithing here in the Northwest for a lot of different reasons. So it's a great set to pick up. It'll probably look super nice on your wall too. So not super perfect, but you know, put some lines in there just to make it look like these are running through like it's actual rope. What I'm going to do really quick is just heat up the one end and then throw it in a wire wheel, because that's really going to soften all those edges, drag the material around. It's in a weird spot in my shop, so it would be pretty hard for me to get the camera over there. You guys don't get to watch, sorry. What do we got? I think I maybe got time to do one more thing besides this rope. Do I? Where are we at with time? We're at 1:45 p.m.
Yeah, let's pick another thing or two. So I'm just going to talk about this one, because this would take, I think, a little too long. This was a piece of 1/4x1.
Bye, Joe.
I came in 4, I hot cut, and then spread it out, right? So it's spread out like so, and then forged those tips down, curled them in. So this one could be something where it was like a heart on top. You could have twisted these bottoms out and made it like hearts and hooks. These could have come the other way into a different type of a finial. I think I might do this one because I really enjoy playing this kind of spaghetti game. I think we'll do that. Boy,
What had you said there was a name for that one you're about to do?
oh, well, I was calling it like the Mark Manley special. This is really like an advertising for Mark Day, I think. Check out Mark Cuddlehammer, and he's got hardening tools. Look at these forging. I can't say I learned how to do this specifically. Mark doesn't have like a patent on that look, but he did up at Summit. He demonstrated how to make bar look like fire at one point. And that was one of the ways that he did it, was to take a piece of bar, spin it around, and then flatten it out afterwards. And it really created this kind of cool dimension change in the round bar. So I don't know if this is going to look any different to the camera, but I just ran a wire wheel over the end of that, and it just kind of softened the edges. We're going to throw this one in and flatten the other side.
And you were at what, like a dark cherry or a black on that heat?
Oh, no, it was pretty hot.
It was?
Yeah, I was going to say bright orange when I hit it with the wire wheel.
Okay.
If you wire wheel when things are hot, one, make sure that you're either using a bench grinding wire wheel and you've got a really good handle on it and it does not rip it out of your hands, or it's in a vise or something where you're clamped to the table, where if you're using a hand wire wheel, like a brush cup on an angle grinder. But it kind of drags that surface metal around. It's actually sort of micro forging everything, if that makes sense. And it really softens corners, makes things nice.
Oh, it looks like we're gonna lose Lisa pretty soon. She's got to get going on her stuff over there. Let's take this heat, and then we'll take a second to say bye to Lisa real quick.
Cool. Well, I'm just taking a taper on things. Even though this is round bar, you still need to taper square. So I'm starting by squaring it off, getting that in taper. I got a really weird pump going on. I had too much heat on it. And then I'm going to knock down the corners. I'm knocking the corners down on a taper, so I'm trying to go for that octagon look so that all my facets are relatively the same going down. And here, I'll take a heat before I finish that. Say goodbye to Lisa. Bye, Lisa.
Bye, Lisa. Thanks for joining us today.
Bye, you guys. It's so nice to be here and be part of this Zoom thingy. I miss you guys so much.
We miss you too. Well,
I'll be back.
We'll talk to you soon. So that's Lisa. She was joining us today from Carbondale, Illinois, where she's recently gone to take her master's in blacksmithing, for anyone who missed that. So we'll let her get on to that important work.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Thank you, Lisa.
Can't wait to see a digital demo Carbondale.
Well, we'll figure it out, I promise.
Perfect.
Bye, you guys. Love the NWBA. Love all of you.
Love you. Thank you.
Back to the rope. Half face blows, kind of isolating that tip. Everybody already saw me poke holes in there, so I'm gonna skip that step, probably just drill it. Back to the fun one. So I had this bar in there a little deep, but I'm gonna planish off all those facets. I'm trying to go for smooth, round to round transition. So anybody who's in the audience who might be new to these digital demonstrations, I would just like to say they're usually much more exciting than this. This is pretty basic stuff we're doing, but we've got some really cool names that are coming up. We've had some really cool smiths that have already participated. It's kind of just trying to hit all the skill levels we can. So.
But no matter what your skill level, I mean, even when we're doing this kind of like basic stuff, you can pick up some tricks. I mean, from little ways people hold hammers and stuff like that. Kellen showed us a really cool little quick and easy flat bar Hardy tool holder earlier that I had never seen before. So that was really cool. So it's always fun to get these new perspectives on the basics and see different ways that people are doing stuff. Yeah, there's lots of people on here disagreeing with you, Kellen. They're loving this stuff. It's a great demo. I know it might see you do it every day and like it seems basic to you, but we're all loving it out here. I mean, it's magic.
Well, I spent, I knew I was doing one for a while. We had to cancel the last one I was going to do. And this was, we had Jake coming up, and I had like every intention of, I was either going to do like a set of hands.
Oh, cool.
Really maybe going to do a bird talon, which I really enjoy making. But then it kind of seemed like we were having Jake do this really cool sculptural element. And I just didn't want to follow a sculpture with a sculpture.
Yeah, and this is, for people who might not have been following along with stuff that's been happening with the association during these times, Claire and Patricia have just this week, and the rest of the board has rolled out this new digital membership that we have, which is a whole new way of interacting with the Northwest Blacksmith Association and a whole new way of being able to keep stuff going in this crazy new digital time that we're all living in. So, we're really excited to be able to have those members coming in, and a lot of those members might not, have been around for a lot of the blacksmithing stuff and all that. So it's nice to keep, like Kellen mentioned, those mixed skill levels going on and make sure that everybody's learning while we're doing this stuff. Kellen, that's a great scroll you got going there.
Thanks. I'm just trying to kick that tip down. I don't know if you can see it here. See the tip of my horn?
Yeah.
I'm backing the tip of the tip with the tip to just try to get that to close up a little bit. But now we're going to stick it in there and start playing some of this kind of like spaghetti squiggle game.
Is that what you were talking about, Jim? Jim was asking about how you're holding the piece perpendicular to the far side of the anvil when you're scrolling over to get it from getting a weird twist. I think he may be talking about when you're starting it.
Well, there's two things, and maybe I should have been commentating while I was here, let me pull this back out. So,
hi, Bryson.
One, if I was trying to work something here, I would want to make sure that that's off. What I was doing, and turn the anvil so you can see, I was using the outside face of the anvil to bring things around. Because this is now a hard piece to back, but I can back it if I'm here.
Oh, he was talking about out on the horn. Were you doing something similar out on the horn?
Oh, on the horn, so the very tip of that scroll, I didn't bring it around tight enough, so the end of it wasn't super tight. And so I was setting, the tip on the back here. I was like backing the tip to the tip, so when I was hitting it, it was getting back. I was trying to roll it in, and it did roll in, and now I've buried it a little bit. It's hard to even show how I'm. But not everybody has a horn. And so you can definitely air hammer, right? This is like what I just did in that whole whole thing there. I'm air hammering. I'm not using a horn. And so I'm heading this off, and since I am air hammering, it's bending in multiple spots, which for spaghetti is kind of nice.
And that's how you get that kind of like flowy, kind of like hourglassy curves in there.
Sure can be. And so right now I'm going to take a little heat, because that one went out a little farther than I'd want it to. And I'm going to kind of show maybe how we could.
Well, Molly's taken off by Molly.
Hi, Molly. Thanks for coming. So by hitting here, I don't know if you can see how it's transferring. It's bringing that in. Oops, lost it. So a piece of advice I would give to anybody who's going to play with this kind of stuff is play with it. Practice. Don't try to get it right, because there is not a right. There's no right to spaghetti. You just got to do it. And to try to utilize the sides of your hand, the face, air blows, coming off here. If you're going to put a full loop in there, and maybe I should put a full loop in here just so I can show what this next little spot is like.
Looks like we're up to 4 sets of hooks now.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, everybody who's contributing to this. I mean, Summit really has a very special place in my heart. I think anybody who has gone up there and spent time at Blacksmith Week, it's probably special to them too. So it would be a real shame if we lost that campus as a blacksmith community resource because of the pandemic. And once they're open for classes again, I highly recommend you guys to keep an eye on their website and to take those classes. We typically have anything that they have going on listed on our own website. Things got a little weird on me. Sorry. So I'm going to tap this side down off the edge of the anvil there, and then hang it over so that we can get, right? I'm utilizing the edge to get past, utilizing the side to be able to control that. And just take another heat. So I was just wanting to show a design, a way you can do it. It's going to be a step away from, you know, what I made here, which this is just kind of spaghetti. And this is ultimate spaghetti when it starts to really loop-de-loop and curl. Well, we still got some folks in the audience. Next weekend, we're going to Texas for this with Anna Koplik. She makes tongs. Really cool young gal. Works in a cool shop in Texas. I bet you that shop tour is going to be a lot of fun. Tongs are quite beautiful. Really pretty high-end tongs. And then we're going to take the weekend of September 5th off. But once we come back, we're going to Russia, to St. Petersburg, to see Alexander Sushnikov. Hope I'm saying that right.
Anton's here. He'll let you know if you didn't.
Yeah, I'll hear about it. His work is super cool. I found him on Facebook. We've been friends for a little while. And yeah, it's just really amazing work that he does. I believe he's going to have a heavy piece of angle I don't know what it is in millimeters, but I would reckon it's probably like 3x3 quarter-inch wall, and we'll be sculpting a face into the front of it. It's almost like repoussé. I think they'll be pushing it from the back some, chasing it from the front. I'd say go find him on Facebook, but I couldn't tell you how to get there because his name is all written in Cyrillic, and it's I know what his English name is, but I don't actually know how to find him.
Well, we'll have to tune in 2 weeks to find out.
Sure will.
We can get it directly from the horse's mouth.
Okay, so I'm going to call this as being like a cool shape. And I'm going to use this as the center line, so I'm going to bring the hook out here. And so I know that I'll put a couple of mounting pins that are in there, but I do want to do this style where like I'm flattening things out. And so I've got this one here, kind of this corner here that are going to be pretty good to do that too. Now it's not sitting on a flat plane, and I'm okay with that. So it's going to be a little tricky to do that one and that one. Just have to kind of back it with the anvil in the correct spots.
Or not in 2 weeks. I'm sorry. You said the From Russia with Love one's going to be 3 weeks because we're taking September 5th off.
Yeah, he's on the 12th, I believe, is 12th. What that Saturday is. Yeah, we're taking the 5th off. We'll have done 3 in a row. In the 5th, my birthday, so I ain't working. Okay, I like to use the rounding side of the hammer for this. And I'm not just hitting flat, I'm like kind of angling those blows. And I'm going to start with the round, and then I'm going to go to the flat. And I think I'm going to even flip it upside down and kind of do the same thing from the back side. Right, and so like that really adds a lot. I mean, those were the same bars, essentially the same twist. It really adds a lot of depth to it.
Yeah, it's cool how quickly that distinct change takes place too. Like that aesthetic of that is, just those few hammer blows is totally different.
Yeah, on that same kind of a note, I only have prototypes in here, I think.
Ooh,
so
the experimental.
I was making some COVID keys, and I was doing it on this section one just to make them look a little more appealing. Don't copy this style. Not a good COVID key. This is not big enough to open any door. I'll take this next sheet. I'll go find one of the real ones. It's pretty thin material, but by doing that style, it thickens it up in the direction that adds strength to metal. It's kind of turning a round bar turns a round bar into like a wreck bar. Kind of flat bar really adds strength to it.
Yeah, that's a cool functional aspect of it as well.
Yeah, because now, even though this is thinner than that, there's more strength here than there in that direction. Going the other way, this is weaker, but on that hard way, it has become stronger.
Yeah, gate latch would be a cool use of that, Rochelle. That'd be a really cool one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm going to flip this thing around. I'm going to dress out the end. I'm kind of curious, anybody who was here last weekend for Jake James's, it was a little bit of a different style that towards the end we kind of had it felt like a real Q&A session, as well as you know, there were some other folks and voices on the panel. It was really nice to hear Lisa today. But, you know, with Jake, Claire had a question, Billy O had a question, and I at least found it really nice to hear other people's voices. I would just kind of poll the audience who's here today. I mean, would you guys like to see like more of a panel? Is that like real set aside Q&A session at the end of the demo worth trying to explore?
Yeah, what do we think? Any notes from the audience on that? We kind of already had a little bit of like a Q&A going with the induction forges, kind of almost a little bit there, but something a little more formal could be pretty cool. What do people think? Any questions right now that people want to ask, or any kind of input that people have? Yeah, I say the more the merrier always.
I don't know. Maybe now's not the right time, but it's people in the audience who are doing all this for it, like all members. If we were to have a panel to have folks ask questions, does anybody have any good ideas on how we set that panel up? I mean, we would have to put a limit on it, so it's not just 8 people who are all asking questions all the time. But we knew who the demonstrator was. I think you guys could have like pre-made questions that were ready to go.
Like we had taken some, like put it out for questions beforehand and kind of had the few that were asking kind of thing, or do it live. Some straight demo. Jim is saying, yeah, maybe like a demonstration, a digi demo that's a little of both, where the demo is a little shorter and it adds extra time and like more of a half and half kind of thing.
Cool.
Just to kind of, yeah, Anthony's saying just the demo is just supposed to kind of spark the discussion almost.
Oh, I like that. And I at least know for myself, like, you know, Jake's been somebody I've been following for years. And so I had questions in my own head before it even started. I'm friends with him, so I was able to ask him some of those kind of when we were getting him set up for the demo. But yeah, I think if folks kind of came to the table with questions ready, I would love to hear their voices asking them in person. Okay, I don't really want to move the camera, but I'm taking you off screen really quick. I'm just going to fold this piece out.
Yeah, something like that induction forge stuff, having a little panel on induction forges of, you know, some people who have used them or built them or know about them a lot, and then, you know, someone like who has an induction forge could be the demonstrator, and they just do like a quick little thing about induction forging, and then discussion ensues. Kind of stuff like that could be some really fun programming.
Yeah, there has been some talk about doing one on forges. And I think Induction Forge could have its whole own thing. They're such mystery machines, many of us. Even the gals who own them, they don't know how they work. Yeah, we opened one up not that long ago. John Paul has one that's kind of for sale as a parts machine right now that should work. It just has a flow restriction. And opening that thing up kind of hurt my brain. What was going on in there? Okay. This thing's not totally beautiful, or all the straight things, but I don't think you guys need to watch me just sit here and like.
We do have one question. Carol wanted to see the little that little flat bar Hardy tool holder you'd made again earlier in the demo.
Cool. Well, if you guys are cool, I'm gonna shut the storage off on here. I think I'm about done making things, but it's this, and so I have an odd size anvil Hardy. Mine is like 1 inch in 1/8 strong. It's almost 1 inch and 3/16. And so this is a piece of 1/4 by 1, and I folded it in half and made it so it was pretty tight to fit in there. And then when I had dropped it in, I just kept a good hold on one side and knocked the tab down and then switched and then knocked the other tab down, and then ended up setting it upside down and kind of thumping it to get it so it would fit. And it will hold quite well. Let me grab a piece if I have one. This holds 3/8 round pretty good. It's actually a little tall because I was playing with it and thumped it around a little bit, but like flattening that out, you know what I mean? Now I can work this piece, and it's not perfect. It's kind of going to bounce around in there, but it's better than having a piece of round that's just here. I've taken away this. And this could be adjusted. It'd be pretty easy to drive a wedge in here. Actually, just do that. No, now it's stuck. That was dumb. You could open this up, especially with a little bit of heat. And instead of 3/8, it could hold 1/2 inch.
Rochelle was saying if the little loops are the correct size, you could maybe even slip something under there and use it to.
Yep. Yeah, I think that would work pretty well too. And I first made that. Let's see if I can't find the bar that I was playing with. I just moved everything in here, so things got weird. I was trying to poke holes in a round bar, and it just wants to roll all over the place. And so that was kind of what I first did, just made that for, because I wanted something that would just hold the bar at least flat, like it wouldn't roll on me anymore.
Yeah, that's a great little solution. I mean, I love the simplicity of the material it requires, and I love the small amount of work that it requires to make it into the form that you need to use it. I mean, like I said, I hadn't seen that solution yet before, and I love that. It's just, it works so well.
Yeah. Cool. Well, anything else, or we need to have a Q&A? Do I need to go sit down on an anvil like Jake? And we can have...
There we go. You got to sit backwards on the chair with your arms folded over the top.
Oh, pull a raker. Well, thank you for everybody coming. Oh, I see Anthony wants a shop tour. Yeah, we can do that. I'm gonna pull my phone out of this tripod to do that. You know what? No, I won't, because it'll be shaky.
Yeah, Paul Wagner brings up a good point. He's, there's a lot of, it's really cool to see the big tools and the big power hammers and all that stuff. But a lot of smiths just, don't have access to that. And so seeing the stuff like this is awesome too, because they can immediately just take that and put it directly to work in their own shop.
Yeah, that was my thought. And I think that there's, I spent so many years in the beginning of playing with this, things were daunting. Where like Riley's demo where he made a Hardy and a hammer. You really don't need a lot of tooling to do that. It sure is nice to have a power hammer to coax you along, but you don't need it. You can do it by hand. But I think that for the beginner, even just big material like making a Hardy feels so much more daunting than it really is. And so having projects like these hooks are so easy to step into. And if you mess them up, you're out like 60 cents of 3/8 round. I mean, it's pretty cheap materials. Okay, shop tour. So here's my one and only entrance. Got like a welding rack, kind of just storage. I just picked up this new TIG machine on top and plasma torch on the bottom is a screaming deal. And they're parked next to my Miller-Matic 35 plug-in the stinger, old school welder. That thing weighs like 500 pounds, ridiculous. Kind of drilling hole department with the Haasfeld. This is one of my little more used areas of the shop where I got the Haasfeld on one side, the vise on the other, and then like my collection of heavy blocks of steel with holes and kind of the swage zone. Really cluttered fastener department and all other holdovers. Let me close this door. Stainless steel keg is a slack tub. They're super available. Most breweries have a few that are busted. The bung on the top has broken in some way, and you can almost get them for free. Sometimes you can get them for free, and you just cut the top off and never rust. Good depth, good size. That's a 100-pound little giant built in 1914. Got some age to it. Mark Manley treadle hammer. And then we kind of get into my punch press collection. The one closest to us is a 20-ton unit, and the one behind it, the 15-ton. I've never used the 15. I just got it on a screaming deal, and I sure do like the machines. I've made a bunch of tooling for them. Just haven't turned that one on yet. And then this is my 25-ton punch press that I've been using to set rivets because it has a deep throat. I can get a full piece of guardrail paneling in there. You can get to the middle of it. The wonderful induction forge, iron worker, Ellis bandsaw. If you're going to try to do this as in any kind of a profession, that is a tool that you will not regret buying. And my shop made hydraulic press. My shop didn't make it. Found it on Craigslist. It's a little slow. It's a little underpowered. Works really well for bending angles and a few other things. Any questions?
Questions, anybody? That's awesome. Thank you so much, Kellen. That was a great demo. Lots of cool little tricks and ways to make your life easier and make stuff go on a little nicer when you're getting started off, which I know is the time when all of that stuff really helps a lot. You know, like you said, this can be really daunting stuff to get into. And sometimes even doing something as simple as making a hardy tool, you know, it can feel like a bit of a task. And so having those kind of easy ways to work around that and keep making the things you want to make, that was great. I mean, like I said, I know I learned more than a few things to help me out already.
Well, I really think that, especially for the beginner, the things you can do that are going to help the most are read the books, find books, try to watch the videos. I would say if you're watching videos on YouTube, there's a ton of good ones. There's some that are not so good. So kind of take everything you're watching with maybe a grain of salt. If it looks suspicious, it might be. Not always best practices are being filmed. But really, like, find other smiths, try to work with them, take classes. Going to places like the Cascadia Center for Arts and Crafts and taking a 1 or a 2-day workshop can put you so much farther ahead in skill sets than you can just kind of like trying to limp through it on your own. And there's a number of little schools and teachers that are around. Most of them are advertised in the Hot Iron News. If you're in the Seattle area, Pratt's really good for that. Now, again, it's hard right now because it's pandemic and not everybody's operational and running. But once you can, you really should. It can be a great way to do it. And I think really the number one thing to do to get better at any of this is to just be in the fire. Go into your shop and play with what you have and try things that sound interesting, because even the mistakes you make, you're going to learn from.
True words could not be said. You heard it from the president himself. I think that's a great way to end the 14th digital demonstration that we've got going on here. We've got next week coming up from Texas. We've got, remind me again, that was Kellen?
Anna Koplik.
Anna Koplik is going to be showing us some tong making and some other cool stuff. Then we'll be taking a break for a week so that everybody can catch their breath. Kellen can celebrate his revolutions around the sun, and everybody else can enjoy the summer for a weekend. And then we'll be right back at it, bringing you some more great digital content with another international NWBA Digi demo. So yeah, anyhow, thanks everybody. I'll go ahead and end the recording here. And we'll call that another successful digital demo. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you, everybody.